is August Steele's grave in the city cemetery, not as neatly taken care of, and I think it should be, as the Hoyer one. He had 6 children, 4 sons, they all died. None of them made it into adulthood. 2 girls did, and in fact this guy who was such a thorn in the side of this pastor and the next one, his one daughter, Clara, ended up marrying the pastor's daughter, Adolph Hoyer, and lived in the parsonage here for those 50-some years. I think it was the mom who was the glue that held this family together. Can't prove that, but that was his first impression. But it wasn't all bad. It was kind of a mixed bag. As for me and my congregation, he's describing now to our synod president his visit here, his time here. As for me and my congregation, everything is proceeding steadily. The services in the schoolhouse, and I think that was at 116 Wisconsin Street, can't verify that. I'll try to find out sometime. You see, this isn't done yet. Are plentifully attended. Our choral society is blossoming with success and may soon occupy a level equal to any society I know of. I introduced liturgical singing right away, not just singing hymns, but singing the order of service. I have begun confirmation instruction with 14 confirmands and 14 auditors. Our Sunday school numbers about 80 children and 6 teachers. So hey, sounds like he got off to a pretty good start. Things were going well. The word also seems to be dividing. A little later on he says this. In the beginning, everybody came to church. Now, the most godless seem to want to stay away entirely. Not through my fault. I didn't try to drive anybody away. They just cannot bear it when harlotry and boozing are called by their proper names. His sermons must have been dandies, huh? Sundays are desecrated with boozing and dancing, though much has changed. Apart from that, I'm very happy to be here. The people show me a lot of love and put their confidence on display in all sorts of ways. Even if the salary is only coming in sparingly, the people bring various gifts, and I am therefore also better off than I was in Fond du Lac. And this to me is the most ironic, and I have absolutely no desire to change places anymore. He wasn't halfway through this year. He was throwing in the towel. He was looking for a different place to go. He even signed up in a medical college in Chicago. He was going to give up the ministry and be a doctor. Halfway through the year. Well, anyway. Remember it says he was always kind of all over the place? For better and for worse. In a later letter, he said the congregation was small and weak, and that the richest people did very little proportionately. Yet there was a small, good core, even if one had to have all patience with them. On the whole, the people do a lot and make every effort. In a number of ways, I can tell that my congregation loves me. And they probably did. I always say churches and congregations, they're like a jar of mixed nuts. You know, a little bit of everything in there. And some of them you want to dig and get the cashews and the peanuts out, but you leave the filberts behind and whatever. All right, let's talk about really the main thing with him, and I'm going to have to keep moving here. I told you on your sheet we're going to do a little bit of local geography in the first part there. Well, I kind of went over that very quickly, but here it is. This is a handmade map made by Pastor Biebert, who did the drawing, and I did a lot of visits to the courthouse. All those little boxes are people who are part of the Lutheran story. There's an index or a key to go along with this so you can see who those people are. That's not our purpose here. But a man by the name of Ted Stelter, go figure, he lived in McCann. What were the odds of that happening? A Stelter living in McCann. Bachelor, born, raised in the little McCann church, loved his church, had a deep love for church history, And he was, for a couple of decades, kind of the go-to guy if you wanted to know what was going on in Lutheran history in Marquette County. He wasn't always totally unbiased, and he wasn't always, he didn't document a lot of stuff. And so it's always kind of hard to tell. But anyway, this is the way he described what happened here that's going to blow up this whole thing. Reverend Streeter, here, I'm not using my pointer here. Reverend Streeter decided to accept the call in 1865. He was burned out, tired, he had a call to Aurora, Illinois, and he decided to accept that and leave this parish. But the Schmidt side, that's one of these little pockets of places where they had services, left because the hours of services or church time, and called on a Reverend Kern from Princeton to serve them. Now, this was the only resource that I had for almost 25, 30 years. And so I'm trying to figure out, now, who could get so upset about the change of church time? So is this, I mean, they wanted to go from 8 to 9 or 9 to 10, and of course, I shouldn't laugh about that. If you want to get a congregation all riled up, just try to change the time of service. You can rip pages out of the Bible and they'll go, all right. And try to change the church time. It's more than that. Here's actually what happened. Pastor Streeter is serving this area, and of course you can see Princeton here. And at this time, this is Green Lake County and Marquette County. They were all, part of the one. So on the first Sunday, he would go to the Taggart's schoolhouse in the morning. This would have been his parsonage here. County E, just west of Budson. Give you some perspective. So on the morning, he would go to the Taggart schoolhouse, which is right over here. The Matz Taggart Cemetery is still there, kind of in the woods there, and that apparently is where this building was. In the afternoon, the Schmidt Schoolhouse, that's right over here. The second Sunday, Buchholz's. That means he's got to go from there all the way down to here. That's McCann. That's Donnie Stelter's farm now. Pastor Stelter grew up on this farm where they held services. But it was a Buchholz center. Again, go figure, a Buchholz in McCann Township. And then Warnke's in the afternoon. So he'd go here, and then he would go up here. Soda Road, Soda Farm, that's the area where that was. And then, of course, you have to go back home. Second Sunday, Buchholz is in the morning, Warnke's in the afternoon. Then the third Sunday, back to the Taggart Schoolhouse, and then to Donning's. That's over here. That's Newton. That's where the little Newton church is at. And then the fourth Sunday, well, you repeat the second Sunday. Fifth Sunday, repeat the first Sunday. Sixth Sunday, you repeat the second Sunday. So we had a routine. And then you repeat the third Sunday, and so on and so forth. Now, if you study that, you'll know that the one group that got short shrift here was the Schmidt group. And they had this big meeting where everybody sent their Vorstehers to decide how we're going to solve this problem. Our pastor can't be everywhere anymore every Sunday. So they decided that out of these stations here, they're only going to have 2 Sundays that they would be served, and the Schmidt people would have to go to one or the other. He said, I'll serve you during the week, but on Sunday you're out. Now this didn't help. That apparently there was some friction between these two groups here, and they didn't like one another for whatever reason, and there was a lot of competition. There was also a segment in this group here that probably wouldn't have voted Pastor Streeter as Pastor of the Year. And so you had some tension there too, and so that made it even worse. And so, well, that's what was going to happen, and everybody left the meeting thinking was going to happen. One of those members in the Schmidt group was Peter Meyer. Also had a farm up there with that schoolhouse. He says, well, it will become church as usual in time, but the fact that those folks are now going to get their way is a thorn in my heart. Well, it wasn't gonna be as usual, because right after that, someone decided, you know, we don't have to accept this. Let's call that guy over there in Princeton and ask him to come and preach to us. And so that's what happened, is Pastor Kern was asked. Pastor Kern informed our Synod President now, Gottlieb Reim, that he was now serving that congregation. Ach du lieber. Yeah. And the feeling was that there was so much dissension. If Streeter's going to leave, let's all circle the wagons, and if we vote for Streeter to leave, then maybe that'll bring unity back. Well, it didn't happen. And of course, Streeter didn't care for the idea. So he wrote a letter of protest. I am herewith bringing the following grievance to your attention. This is writing to our Synod President. Mr. Pastor Kern from Princeton broke into my parish already in the fall in a robber-like manner. A portion of one of my congregations got angry at the other over a completely minor change to the service arrangement. And out of spite toward that congregation, and probably towards me too, though they do not say the latter, since they have no basis, in fact, for doing so, turned to Pastor J.J. Kern, asking him to preach to them. Now this gentleman, and that was tongue-in-cheek, did not consult with me, their rightful pastor, a single syllable. Instead, he began serving those people immediately. I protested against this in writing, but this Mr. Kern just complains about my rudeness and will not have anything to do with the matter. All of that is true. Kern shouldn't have done what he did. It wasn't ethical, it wasn't proper. He should have gone through proper channels, and Pastor Streeter probably was rude. He just had one of those kind of personalities. He was a my way or the highway kind of guy. So many things he was fantastic at, but he just had a knack for rubbing some people the wrong way. I composed a lengthy protestation and public testimony on which the whole story is treated in detail. And then it goes on, and I'm not going to go into all those details. So he wrote this long, long protest. And I've got a translation, and it's like 6 pages. And what was good about it is he also reiterated all the letters he got from Kern. So we had both guys in the same document, so you can really follow what the argument was. Please, sir, take action in this matter that is keeping with the duty of your office. So what did Pastor Reim do? Nothing. Streeter was leaving anyway. Kern's going to be gone pretty soon. And so the matter just got left, but what got left was a big mess where everybody was unhappy with everybody else. And so it just kind of blew up this parish. Johann Schultz, in 1855, when they were first looking for a pastor, and these Posners had just gotten here, said to President Mühlhäuser, as he's begging for a pastor, "Wir sind gleichgestimmte Seelen." We are kindred spirits. And they were, when they first came here together, and all that was involved with leaving, coming here, starting from scratch, speaking German. They probably were kindred spirits until all this other stuff happened. And then really what you have is kind of what we have today. You have the Big McCann Church in Princeton, our Wisconsin Synod churches. St. Stephen Dayton eventually was added to this, and then a little further on, St. John's in Montello. Missouri Synod churches, it was a group of 4, Little McCann, Germania, Budson, and Newton. That changed over the years. Germania closed. Here Budson is now closed. And Little McCann and Newton are hanging in there. But those were the Missouri Synod churches, and that morphed over time. The group that started the big ruckus, Crystal Lake, Harrisville, Newton, formed another group that started out being served by Princeton pastors, including Pastor Hoyer, but then called a man from the Iowa Synod, which eventually became the American Lutheran Church, which eventually became the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. And so you still have these 3 groupings representing those church bodies today. And it all started with a disagreement over the church time. Oh, there was more to it than that. Well, I'm just going to wrap Kern up very quickly here. On July 10th, 1865, he wrote to the new president of the Synod, Brother Streiskus, I am leaving here tomorrow. I am parted here with a heavy heart. It wasn't until I gave my farewell sermon that I really learned how much I love the congregation, and the congregation loved me. And if the step had not already been taken, I probably would not leave. Back and forth and all over the place, up and down, here, there, and everywhere. Where he left, he got on a train. He went to Columbus to get on a train. He didn't have any idea what train he was going to get on when he left home. Ended up on a train that took him to La Crosse, down the Mississippi River, and began serving some Iowa congregations after he left Princeton. I'm going to skip Pastor Zernicke because, well, he kind of came in and took over those two congregations that are now Wisconsin Synod, but he had his share of problems too. He was in a no-win situation, and he left a lot behind here when he left, including his wife, who didn't want to leave the old country in the first place, certainly didn't want to come to Wisconsin, and was never healthy. And while he was attending pastor conference, he got word that she died, and she's buried in the Big McCann Cemetery. All right, wrong man, wrong time, wrong place. That's the next guy. Again, from the Princeton history, infant organization, looking for a permanent home, bought some land. This is all common knowledge, been said many times. But in November of 1865, after Kern left, Pastor J.P. Johann Paul Lucas, sent to America by a missionary society in Germany, filled the vacancy and was installed on the third Sunday in Advent, and that began the ministry of this man, who I think is one of the more tragic stories in all of this. Again, we'll talk a little bit about him, his struggles with his Sorgenkind, his problem child, our old friend August Thiel. And if you think Kern had a problem with him, wait till you see what he says. And then he leaves also looking for greener pastures. The Gemeindeblatt, which was the newspaper of the Wisconsin Synod, had a very lengthy obituary when Pastor Lucas died, and that's where all of this information comes from. He was a PK, pastor's kid. When he was old enough to go away to school, he got some type of disease or whatever, and he lost his eyesight. Ended up going home, future uncertain. His pastor father went to the best eye doctors in Germany at the time, and the #1 guy says it's incurable. Father didn't give up, found another doctor, a different treatment, and he was able to kind of regain his eyesight, but not totally. I mean, first I thought his picture just didn't turn out very well, but he probably spent most of his life hardly able to see. Was blind, but then he could see, sort of. He was influenced by a Lutheran pastor during his time of rehabilitation who changed his life and encouraged him to prepare for the ministry, helped make it possible for him to become part of the mission house training, and eventually was sent to America. And his father insisted that he go to a certain mission house because he wanted him to come and serve in the Wisconsin Synod. I don't know why, how he knew that, but that's what he asked for. And so he came, it was assigned to Princeton, and Pastor Thiele in Ripon again took him in and helped him get settled here. He came as a bachelor, but about 4 or 5 months in, he went down to Milwaukee, and our former Synod president, Johann Muehlheiser, formed a marriage, and he found a wife and brought her up to Princeton to begin their ministry together. Yeah. The leaders of the congregation are the city's tavern keepers, so that hadn't changed. I stand by like a person who has nothing to say. Just one example, August Teal is a person who wants nothing to do with God's word, comes neither to church nor to the supper, has nearly beat another man to death in a church at one congregational meeting. Now, I've been to some rough congregational meetings, but nothing like that. He will not accept any admonition. Indeed, he has publicly articulated that he does not want to be a Christian. I ask that this man be excommunicated and deprived of his voting rights as a result of his outrage, but the congregation doesn't want to. On the contrary, they do not think that Teal is living in sin. The congregation defends him and sanctions his behavior. And there may be a lot of reasons for that too, namely that he was a pretty popular guy. He was a mover and shaker. And when he walked into a room, he took over. But Pastor Lucas was obviously very, very frustrated, and he was the kind of man that got frustrated very easily. I like the way the Princeton, St. John's history, just a little congregation failed to cooperate with him. Well, yeah, that's probably true. He was frustrated because he wasn't getting anywhere, and they wanted to build a church, and that didn't go the way he wanted. But finally, in 1868, he said he had enough. After the building was dedicated, Pastor Lucas felt he wasn't accepted wholeheartedly by the congregation, so he answered a call to the town of Franklin. Not yet. He did take a call to Reedsburg from Princeton, and that's where he went to serve for a short time. So that's kind of the sanitized version, but it was much deeper than that. And here's one of the reasons, too, that didn't help. In one of his letters to the Synod President on August 15th, 1867, after he explained everything what's going on here, he said, "Now I wish to share one more piece of information with you, sir, from my house, in the hope that you will receive it with sympathy. On August 2nd, it pleased the Lord to take our small daughter Betty to himself. In love, I remain your brother, Paul Lucas." Almost like an afterthought. And oh, by the way, my little girl died. This is the St. John's Register of Official Acts, and their number 8 in 1867 is Johanna Elizabeth, there's the Betty, Lucas, born on May 11th, died on August 2nd, and was buried on August 4th. So the man had a heavy heart. Look at number 7. August Herman Teal. Born September 15, 1865, so he was 2 years old, died on August 2nd, buried on August 4th. The pastor and his number one nemesis, who always are going like this, lost a child on the same day. Buried on the same day. Of course, the newspaper picked up on it. August 8th, 1867, faded, drooped, 2 beautiful flowers, faded, drooped, withered away last week, passing into the dreary winter of death. 2 households mourned, 2 little cribs were empty, 2 mothers' hearts bled, their 2 little nestlings were gone, gone never to return. 2 pairs of little smiling eyes were closed, never again to beam with childish glee upon 2 happy mothers. 2 little baby voices were hushed, never more to gladden their mother's heart. 2 little coffins held the little darlings God had taken to himself to bloom in immortal beauty in paradise. One was the prattling boy, baby boy of August Teal. The other, the little babe of Reverend P. Lucas, pastor of the German Lutheran Church. The funeral services were held in the Methodist Episcopal Church, which is now the parking lot of the school over there. The first St. John's was built on the corner. Right next to it in the next block was the Methodist Episcopal Church. And the Lutheran Church was not finished yet. And so they had the service at the Methodist Church. Mr. Lucas, portraying to the audience in German the beauties of heaven, were resting in the arms of the Redeemer. His kleine Kind was free from pain and death. Mr. Lucas spoke fluently and very affectingly Mr. Hewitt, apparently from the Methodist Church, spoke for a short time, impressing the truth upon the audience that only they who die in the Lord shall inherit eternal life. A large concourse of our citizens followed with the mourners to the cemetery. Now, I don't know, but I wonder if these two guys maybe, at least for a day, found some common ground. I'd like to think so, but we don't really know. What we do know is that Pastor Lucas finally says, as long as I've been in Princeton, I've never once truly felt at ease in the congregation. That's from day one. He's really bearing his soul here now, because I cannot work for my Savior here unhampered. The obstacles to the building of the kingdom of God in my congregation are so great that I have completely lost the joyfulness to work here. My congregation wants to have a preacher who merely stands in the pulpit as a figurehead, but doesn't actually concern himself with what is happening in the congregation. The leaders of the congregation are the city's tavern keepers. This is too much for me, Mr. President. I cannot stand it. I am therefore firmly determined to give notice to the congregation on New Year's Day. And I ask you, sir, to give me your advice for another station. I was already stirring in my heart when I was not yet installed. Yet I kept on hoping that things would change, but now I am at an end with my hopes. Your brother, Lucas. Took him about 6 to 8 weeks to actually move his family, but he did, and then he left Princeton too. And of course, takes us right back to where we started. In the year 1869, things changed for the better. A new era for this young congregation. The church member was called John August Hoyer of El Dorado. Although he hated to leave his flock in El Dorado, trust me, he didn't hate to leave them. I can show you about a half a dozen letters that he says, they don't want a pastor. Well, he couldn't get out of Dodge fast enough. He agreed, I shouldn't say that. He was too much of a fine evangelical pastor to even say anything negative about the people who gave him so much grief. He agreed to come to Princeton. Members of the church moved him, his 11-year-old son, Adolph, other members of his family and his possessions from El Dorado to Princeton by ox cart. A richly blessed relationship between the congregation and the Hoyer family was the result of this move, which was to last for 66 years. I said 55. Pastor John served until 1884, and his son Adolph was Princeton's Lutheran pastor from 1880, 4 years with his father until 1955. I say on my sheet that I have a little bit of an epilogue, but I'm just going to leave that for right now. About what happened to these two guys when they left here. I can come back to that, but I want to give you a chance to answer a few questions, ask a few questions if you since my time is up.
So when was the large church built during one of the?
Ask me something I can't think of.
Oh,
off the top of my head. 1914, early 1900s.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that. I got there, you can look it up if you
There's
want.
gotta be a stone somewhere with that
Yes,
date
there-
on
well,
it,
there
right?
is,
There
yeah.
is.
Yeah, there is.
You probably mentioned it and I missed it. Are both Little McCann, Big McCann still functioning?
Yes, Little McCann are part of the, that used to be a tri-parish, well now, Budson closed. The other two are still hanging on, but barely, for demographic reasons. The family's just, it's different times, but yes. A pastor, who's a retired pastor, will come one Sunday, he'll be in one place, the next Sunday he'll be at the other, and when all three were going, the third Sunday, and then everybody would go to we're supposed to go to the other one. But yeah, they're still hanging in there. Dick Chemnitz is a guy, I don't know if you know Dick or not. They got so tired of me, because all the church records for all these churches are in their safe. And he got so tired of me calling him, asking, I need to get in and see the records again, so finally he says, here's the key, here's the combination to the safe. So I can go there anytime I want.
Are the Hoyers buried in city cemetery or in the?
Yeah, city cemetery.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, okay.
And I debated when I was asked to be here, I wanted to do something about the Hoyer legacy, but I felt that this story of the Kern and Lucas is just so unknown that I thought it's time to unearth some of that information. And it's my goal to have all of these letters in a nice little folder to give to you. Or you can buy Pastor Biebert's translation. Johann Streeter, before he died, wrote his autobiography. And Pastor Biebert asked the family if he could use the original manuscript. And he got it, and he had a beautiful, nice, fresh, well-done German translation of that. And it's in a book which is available. It's here in the library. And in that book, and one of the appendices, are all these letters that I'm talking about from Schultz, Grolke, Kern, and the Hoyers. So even if you want to just come and look, they're all there, and they're all in English. And I was just going to say, and we're not going to spend time on it, but everything these guys were before they came to Princeton, while they were here, they didn't change much as they moved. The same characteristics followed them. Pastor Kern, oh man, we don't have enough time to, I mean, he got into land speculation, he got into pigs, he's got a historical market in Nebraska. But his land he built it and it was flourishing because he was told and was convinced the train was going through there. It didn't. And so then he got in trouble because all these people now were, and so he went to Oregon, got into publishing, then he got into insurance. He had strained relationship with his own children. They thought he abused the belongings of their mother when she died. And so he says, well, I'll show you. In his will, he gave all his children $1. All my children shall get the sum of $1 each, and no more, as they have already either got more than their share and have mistreated me, or because they are well off and will not mind the trifling share that would fall to them. Never stop being J.J. Kern. Paul Lucas went from parish to parish, served faithfully, but he died at the age of 39 in his last parish in Trivers, which is here, which is no longer on the square anymore. It used to be in the square in downtown Trivers. He died there, barely able to see. His wife had to read things for him, but he served faithfully, and that obituary in the Gemeinde plot was one of his colleagues, and it was